Wanted to welcome you back to the podcast. This is Dan Brzezowski. We're going to talk about getting outside of your comfort zone so that you can live on purpose.
Welcome.
Attention, please.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the No Comfort Zone podcast. It's time to get out of your comfort zone and live on purpose. Broadcasting to the world from Rockford, Illinois. This is your wake-up call.
Warning.
You are the solutions to all your problems. Stop thinking average. Become the hero version of yourself. Every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. It all matters. You've entered the No Comfort Zone. It's time for a reality check.
Hey, welcome back. We're just hitting just under 18,000 unique subscribers, so I greatly appreciate it. Like, spread, and share the word. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers, and maybe you can help me to do that. It has been a really interesting turn of events in regards to yours truly. I've decided to quit podcasting in my car, going to and from. I'm spending that time catching up on a lot of audiobooks that I wanted to catch up on. But more importantly, it's just the sound quality was not where I wanted it to be at. So it's probably a good idea if I had decided to not drive and podcast from the beginning, but now I'm in my little studio here, and it's great. And I really do appreciate all of the comments, all the reviews, and all the emails. You keep me going, and I'll tell you what, I do this podcast for that person that's out there that might be struggling a little bit with, maybe you got some things going on in your life, some adversity that you're dealing with, some adversity you might be getting ready for, or you just came out of some adversity, and my goal is to help you accomplish your goals in your life by identifying those adverse moments that you've had, realizing how wonderful and what a gift they were for you, so that we can actually start helping you to get some, I would call it accomplishment in your life towards your goals. And it's something very near and dear to my heart, and I'm trying to help people do that every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. That's what I do. So today I'm talking about labels. Labels. It's a painful topic for me to talk about labels, because if you're of weak character, like I was, you're going to buy into what anyone's going to tell you, especially if that person has the degree or they have an influence on you and your life. And the biggest part of the blueprint is to identify that you have to become aware of where you're currently at right now. You have to have a really good understanding of who you are as a person and not the opinion of other people. That's where everything falls apart. When you try to live to everybody else's expectations in your life, you're going to come up short. That happened to me to the point, and I'll kind of walk you through the story of what happened and kind of give you a solution at the end of this. Like we talked about in one of the other podcasts, 10%, what's the problem? The problem is I don't have fulfillment in my life. The problem is that I'm not in a certain area in my life where I want to be at. And the other problem is that I don't think I can make anyone else happier. And you feel like you have a need to do that. And that's what I tried to do. I tried to make everybody happy, be the people pleaser. So there's a label right there, and that's a label I put on myself, by the way. I want to make sure that everyone's happy. And I was told a long time ago by a girlfriend, she had told me that, if somebody's not at your mood or your level, you get a little upset and you try to get into your mood or level. Some people just need to be. And there's nothing more true than that statement, that sometimes people just need to be. So the cool part is, when it comes to labels, there's some good ones and bad ones, and that's the cool part. Unfortunately, we buy into, if we're weak. I was a very weak character person before. I used to care what everybody thought. My feelings were on my sleeve. It took a lot of therapy and a lot of rehab and a lot of life situations to get me from that point where I got to this point where I'm at right now. And I'm here to tell you this, is that if I listed out, and I'll have this in the podcast, all of the labels, you might be shocked to find out, yours truly, some of the labels that were put on me and that I bought into and reacted because of those labels. So the first question I have is, you're going to have to get centered, and you have to find a way to do that. So my question to you is, how do you, as the listener, get centered every day? So you know that you have that foundation around you of who you are as a person. So when bullshit comes your way, you're ready for it. How do you do that? some people, like I've started recently to get up earlier in the morning and do that. I try to get up earlier and earlier. I got back to my old habits, was getting up a little bit later, but that 4:55 a.m., that's the key. 4:55 before the alarm clock is my ideal day. And I suggest that you do that. And now in that time period, what are you doing? I tell the people that I talk to that are trying to get their life back in order, you have to have a standard. The night before you go to bed, you have to have a list of goals, not to-dos, but a list of goals of things you want to accomplish. Bob Proctor, rest in peace. He just passed away recently. Very sad moment in the personal growth, personal development world, but he just passed away. But one of the things that he's talked about, and he got it from the book Think and Grow Rich, which he devoted his whole life to, learning the principles and teaching those principles. You have to have 6 things that you're going to want to accomplish the next day. What are the 6 things that you're working on? And yeah, you can work on 6 things at a time. You can, and they all kind of have to build on each other. Like, for example, you're going to do this at work, and doing that at work is going to help you to generate this type of income. That type of income is going to help with your investments, and that type of investment is going to help you with your time, that time will help you with your relationships. It all just builds on each other. You have to compound that. And I can help you with that too. But so you have to ask that question, how are you going to get centered? And the question should be answered with you getting up in the morning and writing out what those 6 things are, but having them the night before. And also, what are the 3 main things that are going to distract you from accomplishing your goals? And in the book, Think and Grow Rich, you don't put your head on the pillow until you've accomplished those 6 things. And it takes time to do that. I have to cut some caffeine out of my diet, according to my doctor. I have to reduce it. Now, listen, I'm not crazy on the caffeine. I drink about 4 cups a day, 2 in the morning when I get up, and then 2 when I actually get to the place of business. Now, her suggestion to me at my age is that I cut back, but she's like, don't cut back right away. Go back a half a cup 3 days, then go another 3 days and back it down a half a cup till you get to your 2 and then stay there. Enjoy it and use it in moderation, but have some discipline when it comes to it. But don't just stop right away. My no comfort zone lifestyle tells me just cut it out cold turkey and deal with it. Deal with the 3 days of nonsense, headaches, and everything else that goes along with it, which I don't have those things, but I know people do. So in moderation, step back a little bit, and that's okay. That's my no comfort zone. Having to do it in a disciplined, structured way is a no comfort zone for me, and something you should consider. But having you can't stop your day until you get those 6 things done. So mitigate that possibility of those obstacles by actually having, what are the 3 things that are going to slow you down or stop you, and write them down and identify them. It's so important that you become self-aware of who you are, and the best way to do that is in the morning. Start journaling in the morning. Start reading in the morning. Do something that's going to get you centered. Breathing, meditating, doing those things in the morning. Take 15 minutes out of your day in the morning and just spend that time at that point where you can just meditate. Breathe. Some people have it on their Apple Watch. There's a breathing app. Do it. Your world's not going to end. Stuff's still going to go on. Just take a few moments to breathe and get centered and realize exactly where you're at on this planet. And then get aware of your surroundings, of where you're at. It's just, I can't tell you how important that is. It's a huge part of the blueprint to know where you're at. And the reason I say that is because you have to identify the positive and the negative things about yourself. And you have to do it from a centered point of view. You really have to be truthful with yourself. It has to be a reality check. You have to call yourself out on all the bullshit, and you have to praise yourself for the other stuff that you do. And it can't be surrounded by emotion. You have to, I'm like, for example, somebody might say that I'm really undisciplined when it comes to spending money. I need to get my discipline in order so I can actually live below my means, so that I can do different things with my money. I need to have a better relationship with money. You have to identify those things and think about that. And once you've identified it, please understand that it's your opinion of yourself, but it's not opinion anymore. It actually becomes fact. You're saying factual things about yourself. And I'm saying this, and I'm talking about all of this preface before I talk about labels, because the labels that people will hit you with are so difficult to overcome. I guess I'll just get right into it. So if you're going to be honest with yourself and you get centered and you start journaling and you realize there's positives and negatives to you, and you start to come up with the facts about yourself. So now you know exactly who you are. You're aware of who you are. The person looking in the mirror and that looks that way, you got here for a reason. There's no running. There's no hiding. You're standing right there. You're looking at yourself and you're going, that's who I am. And I'm that man because of blank. This, and this. Now, you have to forget all the other ideas that people have about you when it comes to what they think of you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. Not your kids, not your spouse, not your employer, not anybody else. It's that person that's looking in the mirror where you say to yourself, I know exactly who that person is, and that's who I am, period. Now you got to realize, what do you want to change about yourself? Now, here's the interesting part. By being honest and real, you're only halfway there. Because when people put labels on you, and if you're not honest with yourself, here's what's going to happen to you. You're going to have a life situation happen to you, and maybe you have already. And the doctors, let's just say this, hypothetically speaking, let's just say that you're in a situation where you find out that there might be some infidelity going on in your relationship. All right. You suspect that way. Then you look at the relationship. There's lack of intimacy. There's lack of connection. And then you have to realize certain things that you're doing in your life to make that happen, as well as the other person's doing. There's not a connection there. Then the guilt and the shame and everything comes along with it. And then finally the reality hits. The other party says they want a divorce, that they're not into you anymore. They don't love you anymore. They're ready to move on. Okay, now what do? Some people go out and drink. Some people argue. Some people fight. Some people spend a bunch of money. Some people go find a girlfriend. Whatever it is to make themselves feel better or deal with the situation, they're going to go ahead and do. Some people might even go seek medical attention, like I did. And after being with the doctor for 5 minutes that I've never met before, oh, Dan, you're dealing with depression. Really? I have depression? Oh my God, I've heard about depression. I don't know what it is. I'm miserable because my life is ending when it comes to my relationship with my significant other, and there's children involved, and there's all this unknown that's happening. Oh, wow, I'm depressed. I bought into it right away. I'm depressed. Then I went to go see a specialist, and you know what the specialist did? The specialist actually said, you know what? Yeah, it's true. You're depressed. Take this questionnaire. It's 50 questions. 25 of those questions gets answered, comes over my shoulder, and he says, hey, you know what, man? It's pretty obvious right now. You don't need to fill the rest of it out. You know, I'm going to have to diagnose you as bipolar. I'm depressed and bipolar? Yeah, that's what you're dealing with. But don't worry, we'll give you medication for that. Oh, wow. I should probably do that. So then I get on the depression medication. Now I get on the bipolar medication. I go back for another counseling session. How are things going? I still haven't dealt with the real issue that's going on in my life. And guess what ends up happening? Hey, man. Based on how you're handling the situation, I think you're bipolar 2. And based on that information, another session later, you're bipolar 2 with rapid cycling depression, which basically means when your manic state and your depressed state connect, rage happens. Okay, I'm getting kicked out of my house. My relationship's ending. I'm not going to see my kids anymore. I'm having issues with my employer. There's other stuff going on that I haven't addressed yet, and that's the reason why all this stuff is happening, but you're going to give me a pill that's going to help me with that. So now I'm on all kinds of different psychotropic medication. And then they tell me that I need to calm down, and for these fits of rage, they're going to put me on antipsychotics. No kidding. This is just crazy how this escalated because I was believing the labels. Finally, somebody took 2 minutes to listen to me, an actual therapist that was referred to from the psychiatrist. I go meet with the therapist, and they're after about a 40-minute session. Yeah, we need to meet again, like really quick. We meet again. Dan, from what I can see from my point of view, my professional point of view, I don't see you having an issue with depression, bipolar 2. I don't see this manic depressive behavior. What I see is you have alcohol addiction. What? Now that's a label that I didn't really deal with. That's one that I'm accountable because I'm drinking like crazy. And in the end, that on top of benzodiazepines to calm me down, which were prescribed by the psychiatrist, we came to a very realization after the first detox that, yeah, I am addicted to alcohol and I'm addicted to benzodiazepines and some other street drugs. Why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this on this podcast to realize that I didn't have any character to know who I was. I was in denial on who I was as a person. I didn't deal with my alcoholism. I didn't I didn't think I had a problem. I was drinking just like everybody else. I celebrated after work. And if we didn't celebrate or have a great day, then we would just go drink to have a conversation and stay connected. I justified everything that I did, but I was drinking way too much. Everybody around me knew that this was a situation for me. I mean, I look on YouTube now and I'm seeing these professional MMA fighters, Mike Tyson, and all these other guys are saying, I don't drink anymore. I don't drink anymore. This is not a drink. This is a don't drink podcast. This is about your mental health. This is about labels in your identity. This is about that time in your life right now where you have choices to make. If you've had adversity and you're dealing with labels, well, let's look in the mirror and identify that I am a cocaine addicted, alcohol addicted, benzodiazepine addicted, opinions of other people addicted, and now I'm in a situation where it's so bad for me I don't even want to be in my own skin anymore because I bought into all these labels. Now I'm asking myself these questions about, what do I do now? Now I'm worse off because of all the other medications that I'm addicted to now, that I was overprescribed, that I was taking, overdosing myself on top of it. And now I look at, and I'm in this big mess. I can't think straight. I'm putting on all this weight and all this craziness is going on in my life. And I can't consume enough drugs to make this hole go away. And I can't do enough. And I'm constantly miserable. I think I cried for a year. I mean, that's literal. Like I was crying all the time. My whole system was out of whack, all because I had a depressed situation, a situation in my life, adversity happened, and I handled it wrong. And then I bought into the labels that people told me. And I want to say this on the podcast. I want to tell you this, that there's people out there that when they're given a label, like, for example, they may or may not have an eating disorder. They might have a situation where something's coming up and then somebody's going to label them. A professional is going to label them and then they're going to medicate the shit out of that person. And I'm here to tell you this right now. And this says it for most of the manufacturers that give psychotropic drugs that do that. And the disclaimer is on this. It's medication with therapy. My therapist saved my life. Dr. Amy Jordan is her name. My therapist saved my life. And in doing so, they said to me, we can't see you anymore. I'm not going to see you anymore as a patient until you get your ass into rehab and complete a 12-step program, and you're in a 28-day minimum rehab. She wanted me to go to a 90-day. I did what she said. Then she saw me afterwards, and then we started to work on what the real problem was. I started to work on what's going on with my emotions. What happens when somebody actually does a stressor? How do I react to it? Well, from what I've learned from that, rehab, the Marines in boot camp, and in business, I put all that stuff together and I was able to figure out that, man, I get really comfortable with dealing with labels. I get really comfortable with being in the status quo. If you say it's that way, then that way is okay for me, and I just have to figure out how to live with that. I got to the point where I was like, enough of this information. I have no longer an interest in any way, any shape, any form of dealing with these labels anymore. I'm a man who's going to beat the addiction. I'm a man who's going to be successful. I'm going to be a man who's going to live in accomplishment. My standards now are that I am the man in the relationship, and I'm going to do everything I can to provide safety and security and provide for my family, and I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to have expectations of how I want to live and how the people around me should live, and if they meet those expectations, then everything's okay. I make sure that my expectations are appropriate. But I also make sure is one very more important thing is that when I get up in the morning, I look in the mirror and I know who I am, and I really don't care about the opinions of other people about who they think I am. It's so important that you understand that, and I'll say this at the very end of all of that. You just have to remember you still have to be a good person. You still have to be kind. You still have to realize that there's people hurting out there, and you have to be empathetic to what somebody else is going for. You can't have an I don't care about you attitude. It's just the opposite. I need to be this way. You need to be this way so that you can help other people, because that's what it's all about. You're not in this journey by yourself anymore. Quite frankly, this is the journey that you're in for the rest of your life, and it does involve other people. And you need to be the best version of yourself. You need to get your identity back. You need to get rid of those labels. You need to look in the mirror in order to do that. You need to become insanely aware of who you are as a person. You need to understand with conviction and identify exactly where it is you want to go in your life. Then you're going to have to make some tough decisions on who you want in that journey and how you're going to make that effort. What plan are you going to have in order to get there? And then lastly, you're going to have to take massive action every single day. And every single day means when you go home, when go to bed, you write out your 6 things you want to accomplish. You write out your 3 things that are going to be distractors. And then you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to review those and possibly even rewrite them again. You're going to breathe. You're going to get centered and meditate. And you're going to realize, who am I today? What version of am I going to be that's going to show up and be that person for everybody else? But more importantly, who am I going to be for me? It has to be true for you. And if it's true for you, and if you're in alignment with who you want to be as a person, and you're working towards being that person, then you have good character. It's when nobody's watching, what are you doing? Are you working on being better? That's what this is all about. That's the no comfort zone. There is no days off. There is no taking a drink. There is no relaxing. And if you can live like that, if you can keep going, what you're going to find is you're made up of a ton. There's so much. You have so much potential inside of you that's so untapped. And when you start to do the mirror exercise, and when you start to show up, and when you start to get up early, and you start to put these blocks together, you start to compound solutions in your life. You start to draw on the right people. You start to create opportunities that weren't there before. The universe, the world, God wants to help you. The people around you want to help you and support you. But you just have to show up, and you have to show up the right way. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, this whole podcast today is all about labels and identity, and I hope you got a lot out of it. And if you know somebody out there who's dealing with feeling like crap, if you know somebody that's going through a really bad situation, I don't know what to do. There's nothing you can do other than to reach out and be a friend to that person. There's nothing you can do but say to that person, listen, I don't know what you're going through. I really have no idea. But if I were going through it, I would go seek professional help. I would go find a therapist, and I can help you with that. We can go find somebody together. I want to be there for you and be a friend to you, because when you're a friend of that person that's down and out, they're going to remember it. I had people that showed up at the hospital when I was locked away and found me, and I'll never forget that. I did a podcast, one of the first ones, about a guy who showed up in my life that, quite frankly, I was in hiding. I was getting help mentally and trying to figure this whole thing out, and this person showed up out of the blue, and I will never, ever forget that. Another person called me up just out of the blue on a Friday night when I was trying to get sober and get my life back. On a Friday night of all things, here's a relatively new single guy that was one of my employer's bosses, and great, cool guy, fun to be out with. Said, hey man, I'm willing to drive out an hour to come and see you. Let's go get some sushi. I had no money at the time. I wasn't working at the time. It was Friday night, and I was like, why would you want to do that on a Friday night? Because he was a good person. He knew I didn't have anything going on in my life. He felt pretty sad for me, and he just said, you know what, I want to connect with my friend. What's wrong with that? So on a Friday night, this guy drove an hour to come and get me, take me out to dinner, a nice sushi restaurant, and then drove an hour back. I wrote him a nice thank you note afterwards, because he had no idea the despair I was going through at the time. But it got me to this point today. It's those little things. So be a friend to somebody else. Try to do that for somebody. And listen, if you've got issues with drugs and alcohol, or if the medication and stuff, you can email me. I'm not a therapist when it comes to this. I've just dealt with my own nonsense, but I have resourcefulness, and I can direct you in the right direction if it's something you need help with. If you're ambitious and you're not where you want to be at, that could cause depression. Well, it doesn't mean that you need to take a pill. It needs to mean maybe you need to kind of rethink things a little bit. And if you're ambitious and if you're going for your goals, and it's just a matter of putting things together to go from point A to point B, go to the nocomfortzone.com. Let's put together your plan. What are the 3 things that are holding you back? What are the 3 things that you want out of life that you want to work on in the next 30, 60, 90 days? And let's go through a no comfort zone challenge. I would love to put you through a no comfort zone challenge, because when you start it and when you finish it, you're going to get to that point where you're going to be unrecognizable. You're going to be so motivated that if somebody asks you to go bite through a tree, you're just going to go ahead and do it. Somebody's going to ask you to go eat a car, and you could do it just because you're so motivated and inspired. And that's why I do these 3 or 4 times a year, because it reinvigorates me and gets me this passion for life. So quite frankly, I can do what I do on these podcasts, is I can live on purpose. And that's the whole goal. I've been podcasting long enough today. So remember, those labels don't mean anything. And those labels that people labeled me for, including professionals, I don't buy them into it. I don't buy into them anymore. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly who I want to be. And I'm doing everything I can in order to get there. And my blueprint, the No Comfort Zone blueprint, helps me to do that every single day. So I appreciate it. Thanks so much for being a listener. Until we meet in person, or until we maybe work together, let me just offer you this. Today is the day that you get out of your comfort zone and live on purpose. purpose.
Say goodbye.
Want more of the No Comfort Zone? You can follow Dan on Instagram and Twitter at NoComfortZone1.
Bye.
Or on the web at thenocomfortzone.com.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the No Comfort Zone podcast.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.